Hello everyone and welcome to the BRR Media Legal Brief, where we bring you the latest legal issues affecting corporates in Australia. I'm Kate Ritchie. Well, recently Rod Sims, the ACCC chairman, came out and gave a speech outlining the priorities for 2013 for the ACCC. Joining me to discuss the ACCC's action plan and of course what it means for your business is Simon Snow, who's a partner at Gilbert and Tobin. Simon, welcome.
Good afternoon.
Well, Simon, firstly, the ACCC noted that strong enforcement is really a key priority. Is this a continuation on from what we saw last year, and could you give us a bit of a brief background onto that?
Sure. Look, enforcement was a very high priority for the ACCC during 2012, and going forward into 2013, I think that will remain the case as well. 2012 was a very busy year for the ACCC across a range of different areas, including cartels, including consumer protection issues, and also in mergers. So a very busy year in 2012. Looking, for instance, at the cartel area, the chairman recently noted that since 2008, the Commission's been successful in obtaining almost $128 million in penalties for cartel conduct from the federal court, and of that, almost $100 million of those penalties came from one set of proceedings, which are the air cargo proceedings, and around $45 million in penalties were imposed by the federal court during 2012 alone in relation to that particular set of proceedings. Busy though also in relation to new matters as well. The Commission instituted 2 new sets of cartel proceedings during 2012 in the automotive parts industry and also in the LPG industry as well. So not just results at one end, but also the institution of new proceedings as well. The Commission has also talked recently about the success of its immunity program and has been heavily publicising that immunity program. The chairman recently noted, I think, that had over 100 applications for immunity since that program was instituted, so that's quite a high level of activity. And in order to, if you like, educate people about the cartel prohibitions and the immunity program, the Commission's even in 2012 released a short film called The Marker, which is I think 16-20 minutes long. You can find that on YouTube if you search under ACCC and The Marker, and they've put that out in order to educate CEOs and other executives of companies about what cartel conduct is and the availability of the immunity program as well.
Well, Simon, if we move, I guess, on to consumer protection, how has the ACCC been faring in that area?
Again, it's been a very busy time. The Commission in Consumer Protection has been focusing on a number of things, including the availability of civil penalties for misleading and deceptive conduct. Now it's been introduced for the last couple of years, and the Commission's had some quite high penalties imposed for consumer protection breaches. And they've also been looking very carefully at the consumer guarantees under the Australian Consumer Law. They've instituted 2 sets of proceedings against Hewlett-Packard and also 11 Harvey Norman franchisees in relation to alleged misleading conduct for consumers in relation to their rights when the goods that they buy are faulty. It hasn't, however, been an unalloyed success for the Commission, though. They've recently had a number of setbacks in the consumer protection space. Just recently, I'm sure people are aware of the High Court decision in Google, where the ACCC took proceedings against Google for misleading and deceptive conduct, and the High Court found, in fact, it was the advertisers that were responsible for the misleading conduct and not Google. Just before Christmas as well, the full federal court handed them quite a significant reversal in their case against TPG for misleading conduct. And as well, just very recently in the last week or two, the Commission was not successful in an unconscionable conduct case that they brought against door-to-door sales tactics used in the vacuum cleaner industry as well. So although the rate of institution is quite high, they have had some successes but some setbacks as well. I guess the other thing to note is the Commission has also launched its first app in 2012, which is the ACCC Shopper app, and that allows you not only to get a summary of your rights as a consumer when you buy goods from retailers, but also allows you to store receipts and set reminders for lay-bys and things like that as well.
It's quite a nifty function there.
Yes, it's a new technology for the ACCC.
And I guess looking finally at mergers, they had a significant loss with Metcash. How has this changed their approach?
Look, the Commission seems to be another very busy year in 2012 for mergers. A number of statements of issues released, and also a number of outright oppositions as well. So the Commission is still very active in that area, particularly in concentrated sectors.
Well, I'd like to move on to 2013. What are the main focus areas in terms of consumer protection and also competition issues for this year?
Well, the Commission just recently released its updated enforcement and compliance policy in the last week or so, and that sets out, if you like, the shopping list of issues that the Commission will be looking at in the next 12 months. A lot of them are similar to what it looked at in 2012, but some of them are new as well. And what it really says it's going to be looking at over the next 12 months, consumer protection in telecommunications and the energy sector, a very strong look at online retailing, both from a competition and from a consumer protection point of view, competition and consumer protection issues in highly concentrated sectors, and here it's particularly singled out supermarkets and the fuel sector as well. It's also going to be looking at something which is new for it this year, what's called credence claims, and in particularly in relation to food, that means claims such as free range and other sorts of claims that are very much valued by consumers, ensuring that where those claims are made they can be justified and aren't misleading. Finally, it's also going to be looking at consumer protection issues as they affect the Indigenous community as an area for focus, and also I think a key area for them over the next 12 months will be ensuring that retailers and other suppliers are complying with their ACL or Australian consumer law obligations in relation to the sale of goods, particularly in relation to faulty goods.
Well, Simon, you mentioned supermarkets and the fuel sector there. Are there any other sectors that you think will be included in the focus for this year?
Look, I mean, I think there will be a number of areas. The Commission keeps pointing to highly concentrated sectors, and of course there are a number of those beyond, if you like, the traditional ones the Commission has sort of called out by name, being fuel and supermarket. So I think all of those will come under a fair level of scrutiny, and I think in particular online retailing, for a number of 2 years now the Commission has called that out as a particular area of focus, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were to take some action in the next 12 months in relation to ensuring the ability of smaller online retailers to be able to compete in the marketplace.
Well, finally, you've mentioned lots of issues that the ACCC plans to target. If you were to give businesses 3 pieces of advice, what would they be?
Look, I think in terms of avoiding ACCC scrutiny, the 3 pieces of advice might be compliance, compliance and compliance. I think that is really a key area. Prevention is always better than the cure. That is certainly the case in competition and consumer law as well. And there's been a number of changes recently to the relevant legislation, both the Competition Consumer Act and the introduction of the Australian consumer law. So now is a good time for companies really to look at their compliance programs, look at their compliance materials, make sure they're up to date, make sure that they have good programs, good complaints handling systems, so if issues arise, they come to the attention of the relevant compliance people in the legal departments as well, and they can be dealt with. And I guess the other thing I would add, in addition to compliance, is the importance of being proactive. I think it's very important, if an issue does arise, that it's best if it's dealt with as proactively as possible. So in other words, determining what the problem is, fixing it to the extent you can, and putting in place systems to try and ensure it doesn't recur can be really effective, and in certain cases as well, even being proactive about bringing them out of the ACCC's attention as well can be appropriate.
I think some good advice for business there. Simon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kate.
And viewers, of course, thank you for joining us. We hope that you can join us next week for our live legal brief.